Hello, dear friends of freedom. I think a very fitting name for the Russian state is a name that ironically Putin once gave to the collective West, the Empire of Lies. A wise man once said, believing Putin means disrespecting yourself. There are certain lies that the Kremlin tries to spread across the Russian society with particularly high effort. The Kremlin has a high interest in spreading those lies because they benefit immensely from an increased number of believers. Here is an example of what I believe is one of the most important lies the Kremlin is trying to convince Russians of. If we would not have invaded Ukraine, the fascist Ukrainian neo-Nazi regime would have invaded us, and then the war would have to be fought on our land. The advantage of spreading this lie is that it creates the idea that brutally invading Ukraine and starting a war was not only necessary but unavoidable. This lie successfully reversed the Russians' understanding of what it means to be the aggressor. Many Russians are not even aware of the fact that Russia has attacked Ukraine and started the war, since they are deeply convinced that the Kremlin is simply defending itself against the true aggressor, which is Ukraine and its puppet masters NATO, the US, and the collective West. The common perception is that they are the ones who actually started the war, since they left Russia no choice but to defend itself by invading Ukraine. This lie is very effective in turning even those Russians into war supporters who previously considered themselves pacifists. Many Russians are happy to believe that attacking Ukraine equates to defending Russia, as this is a much more comfortable worldview than admitting that they supported the aggressor and that ironically they are the ones who look like actual neo-Nazis in the eyes of the rest of the world. Of course, one could ask themselves how a country with a 10 times smaller army and no nuclear weapons could seriously consider attacking a country with the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, but Russians were taught not to ask these kind of questions as they lead to uncomfortable conclusions. Otherwise, they might end up questioning or even discrediting the actions of the Russian government, which, as we all know, is punishable with up to 15 years. Such a great country to be proud of. Another very important lie that the Kremlin is desperately trying to spread with very high effort is the following. In an attempt to make Russia look bad, the Ukrainian government is ordering the Ukrainian army to bomb and kill their own fellow citizens so that they can blame it on the Russian army and make it seem like the Russian army is committing war crimes against peaceful civilians. The benefit of spreading this lie is that it gives the Kremlin the ability to be as brutal and violent towards Ukrainian civilians as they like to be, while not having to worry that Russians at home might condemn their actions, because it's always possible to claim that every war crime, every attack on civilian infrastructure is just a fake which has been done by the Ukrainians against themselves.
Что касается Бучи, послушайте, я разговариваю с коллегами из западных стран часто, до сих пор. Когда они мне говорят «Буча», я спрашиваю: а вы в Раке были когда-нибудь? Дела никому не было до этого. Никто даже не заметил. Так же, как никто не вспоминает сотни убитых мирных жителей в Афганистане. Не было такой тишины, когда устраивали провокации в Сирии. Потом выяснилось, что это фейк. Такой же фейк и в Буче. Такой же фейк и в Буче. Такой же фейк и в Буче. И Александр Григорьевич мне сегодня давал документы даже.
Spreading these lies, also known as tactical truth, is part of the Russian military deception doctrine known as maskirovka. If you want to find out more about it, I recommend you to watch this presentation by a Finnish intelligence agent who spent decades in Russia studying their cultural differences. All the lies the Kremlin is spreading have one thing in common: tricking people into believing them serves the Kremlin in one way or another. The lie to which I want to dedicate this video, sorry for the long introduction by the way, is the following. Russian soldiers who get captured by Ukrainians and become prisoners of war, POWs, will be beaten, tortured, and in some cases castrated. Spreading this lie is supposed to motivate Russian soldiers to keep on fighting until the bitter end, so that they rather get killed than captured and don't dare to give up and to go into Ukrainian captivity. Russian soldiers should believe that the consequences of giving up will be far worse than the consequences of dying on the battlefield. This measurement is also supposed to counter the Ukrainians' offer of financial rewards for those Russians who meet the Ukrainian defenders with a white flag and military equipment. In the following translated videos, you will see 3 examples of Russian efforts to spread the lie of Ukrainians torturing POWs. In those 3 cases, those Russian prisoners of war have been giving uncut and voluntary interviews of over 1 hour while they were still in Ukraine. In these interviews, a natural conversational dynamic can be observed. The viewer could see the full spectrum of the Russians' emotions, ranging from laughter to tears, depending on the topic that was discussed. After these Russian prisoners of war have been successfully exchanged, they were recorded giving short statements to Russian state media in which they suddenly had a very different story to tell. which coincidentally completely supported the Kremlin's desired narrative. At the end of this video, you will see a short clip of a bunch of freshly exchanged Russian POWs who just arrived back in Russia without having any kind of contact with Russian authorities for months, and who have been asked by a Russian state media reporter if they have been harassed during their captivity in Ukraine. Let's take a look. Do you give us the right to publish this conversation? Yes, I do. Why don't you refuse? Because I want to tell the truth. Do you have a story to tell us? Yes. First of all, I want to say, and I think all the other fellow comrades will agree with me, I want to say that I'm very thankful for our government and for our Ministry of Defense for getting us out of there. Tell your countrymen if it is really worth it to come here, or if it isn't, and how your commanders are treating you guys. Maybe you can start with the fact that the whole Deputy Chief of Staff of the Army was begging to recruit you, and then screwed you over. Will you say something to your fellow countrymen? If not, let's not waste any time here. Let's better not do it. Hmm? No, I don't want to. So they are welcome to continue to come here and die, yes? No, absolutely not. They shouldn't come here. Don't take any weapons and don't come here. It's not our territory. Civilians were living their peaceful lives. They haven't done anything wrong. And now they became homeless because of us. And some even lost their families. And just because a couple of mothers wanted to level up their military ranks. And those commanders have just abandoned us like trash. And then they just fucked off, covered their asses, and earned their money. During the time of our stay in Ukraine, we have been told that our country doesn't want us, that we are just meat, that we are just a currency for exchange. They told us that they don't even want to exchange us for corpses. In the morning I woke up, and the whole camp was completely empty. They all left. Did they just abandon you? Yes, fuck. Over 140 troops have just left overnight. Did they take their equipment and weapons with them? No, there was so much equipment left, dry rations, all that stuff. So we were walking around the camp. Somebody left their bulletproof vests there, somebody left their sleeping bags there. They just left everything. To be honest, we found out based on actions and not based on words that our country really needs us. From one day to the other, they have just abandoned us in the forest. And they just fucked off as fast as possible. What kind of place is that? Why the fuck did I come here? They have just manipulated us. They have tricked us conscripts into joining the fight at the front line. And then you arrived here, yes? Yes, it ended when I arrived here. I was told they have washed you and fed you. How long haven't you been washing yourself? 2 weeks. And here you had a chance to wash yourself, yes? Yes. How come here in captivity you get food and a shower, and there in your army you get... By the way, the food in the Russian army is just so disgusting. It's cold and dry and... yeah, compared to that, the food here is really, really good. Was there meat? Yes, there was meat, and it was warm, and you could eat it. It was so good, while the Russian army just served us shit. I got a text message on my phone. It said that my son is a prisoner of war, and then I got a picture of him. When I zoomed in on the picture, I saw that he has been beaten. I could see it. He had bruises, his nose was broken. As his mother, I could see that right away. I see how good you are doing there. Seriously, Mom, I'm fine. I got abandoned by our own troops. They just left me in the forest. What? I said our own troops have just left us. They just abandoned us in the forest. So basically, we're waiting here to be exchanged. Why the bruises? That was when we were trying to run out of the forest. It was at night, and I stumbled across bushes and ran into some trees and fell down a couple of times. I'm sitting here chatting with the journalists. They're all right. They're even treating me better than our own people. Of course, I got very worried right away. Even though he said that he wasn't beaten, it was very hard to believe for me. Your dad is also very worried about you. Everyone is awaiting you here home. Goodbye. Hey, Mom. I love you too.
Мамуль,
I'm doing
привет.
fine, don't
Я тебя
worry.
очень
They
сильно
treat us
люблю.
good here.
У меня тут все хорошо. Вот. Мы обращаются нормально, живем.
So, I got an SMS. An SMS from your son? No, it was an SMS from the side of Ukraine. They made a video of him and then they sent it to me. Are you treating him well?
Вашему сыну
If we treat him well,
мы уже
we have already interviewed more than 400 prisoners of war. As practice shows, they are treated better here than by their own army. They are even gaining weight in our captivity.
и с ними обращаются лучше, чем ваша армия.
Да, да.
Yes, yes. Nobody is beating them. Those who are wounded get medical care and their injuries get treated professionally. You can go to our YouTube channel and you will see everything. And he said to me, there's nobody here anymore. And we kept on searching and there really was nobody anymore.
И там никого нету.
Do you understand that what you're saying sounds like total bullshit? Yes, I know, but it was really like that. This is another example of the mental transformation of a Russian prisoner of war once he arrives in Russia. First, they blindfolded us so we couldn't see where we are going, and directly afterwards, I got a kick in the face. I could really feel it on the left side of my head. Then they started to kick and choke me. The reason why I asked you how you were treated is because I want to know if it's fair to say that you are treated better here in captivity than by your army. Yes, this is true, because directly when they captured me, they gave me some medical care. They even allowed me to phone home. You already made a call back home? Yes, when they captured me on the 6th, I was allowed to make a phone call on the same day. I just want to remind you that you have been an occupier and invader for over 6 months here. You have directly or indirectly participated in the shootings of Ukrainian troops. Everything will be alright again, don't worry. They treat me good here. They give me food here and medical care. Because of the severe impact, my neck was not holding my head anymore. I was sitting in a downward position the whole time. So, what kind of injury do you have on your neck? Because I jumped out of the APC at high speed. I had a hard bump on my head. Not a concussion, but a blow to the brain, as doctors told me. Plus, I had a leg fracture and a shrapnel wound in my leg. So, because of the severe impact, I have quite a bit of neck pain, and I didn't know where up and down was for a week or so. The bottom line is, not the armed forces of Ukraine, but the Nazis like to exchange prisoners, not for other POWs, but for money. They take 300 for non-officers and up to 1,000 for officers. I know that they're saying that the Ukrainians are exchanging prisoners for money, but that's not true. We really have to wait until they can exchange soldier for soldier. So I told them that I was a sergeant and they thought I was lying. They wanted to confirm that I'm telling the truth, because they didn't believe me. Then they started to beat me up, and then I was thrown into the car, and then they drove me to jail. Then they grabbed me by the neck and pulled me into the cell. And then I was interrogated by nationalists. And here everything is different. Here it's a completely different story. Nobody kills you or holds a gun into your face. Yes, there was a situation when a Ukrainian was holding a gun to my face, but that was when I still had my armor on and still had my knife. I understood that they just wanted to make sure that I don't just grab it and attack them. They told me to stay calm and they even gave me first aid. And one of those nationalists could have easily just taken one of the grats with the letter Z on it and just fire all over, for example, Kharkiv, and then say all over mass media that it was the Russians. And have you targeted populated residential areas? Yes, when we had our offensive, on August the 5th, I think it was. It was a large-scale offensive of our side under Grakovo, 2 villages to the right. It was about 5 a.m. and our artillery fire was opened based on the order of our commanders. We shot about 2,000 shells on those villages. You dropped 2,000 shells on 2 villages? Yes, plus minus 2,000 in 2 hours. Feel free to talk a little bit longer to your wife. You can tell her how your worldview has changed since you got here. I better tell her that when I'm home. Fine, do whatever suits you. And here's the third and last example. They forced us to say things on camera while they were aiming with automatic rifles on us. You get that we are ordinary journalists, right? Yes, of course. So we can have a casual conversation and I will record this for publication. We got 2 meals a day that consisted of 2 spoons of porridge. I think they feed you better here than over there, right? To be honest, I think I already gained about 6 or 7 kilograms. We were constantly bullied and harassed. So in Ukrainian captivity, you eat better than in the Russian army. Yes, even your commanders treat us like normal people here. I can't even imagine how our guys... Of course, because we are normal human beings. If that's how the Russians treat their own troops, I can only imagine how they are treating Ukrainian prisoners of war. I wish that they would treat them exactly the same way that you guys are treating us. We would also like that. We were allowed to wash ourselves once a month, horrible conditions. It was very hard. They wouldn't allow us to call home. I hope my husband will come back safe and sound. I will come home soon safe and sound. In fact, what we have seen was that Ukraine was shelling their own peaceful citizens. I'm telling you, once you're here, you understand that things are very differently from what they are telling us. Honey, just don't say anything unnecessary right now. Remember, you still have to come back here and live here. Or have you decided to stay there now? No, Han, I didn't say anything unnecessary. I just said what I saw with my own eyes. Regarding the exchange, they wrongfully claimed that Russia was not interested in exchanging prisoners of war. I think everybody will be exchanged anyway. It's just a matter of time before Russia calms down and understands that it makes sense to exchange prisoners of war. This might happen when Russia finally understands that it has no right to be here in the first place. We asked the Ukrainians, will you leave us alive? They told us that they have nothing to gain from killing us. They told us that we will be exchanged, that we don't have to worry. It would be great if the Russians would allow Ukrainian prisoners of war to call back home, if they could show that they are alive and well, like we are doing with you. But they don't give us any information. They don't even let the representatives of the United Nations or the Red Cross in to inspect their conditions, even though they always claim that they are the good guys. We are very happy. Thank you, Russia. Thank you that you exchanged us. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Ministry of Defense. I don't know what else I can say. I guess I just have to get some distance from all of this now. We are very happy. God bless you all. This is why my advice to you guys is work and stay at home. I don't advise anyone to come here. At the end, I wanted to show you a short clip of a truckload of freshly exchanged former Russian prisoners of war who just came back from Ukraine. What's interesting is that they all did not seem to have been briefed yet on how to answer the question whether they have been harassed while they were in Ukrainian captivity. There was a shooting going on, and I was hit in the leg. I told the other guys that they should leave me behind, and that I don't want to be an unnecessary burden for them. I said I will try to give them cover. My comrades wanted to try to help me, but I told them that they should leave me. And then, after the second shell struck right next to me, the Ukrainians arrived and they thought that I was already dead. I was completely covered in blood, and they thought I was a Code 200. I heard how one of the Ukrainians said, "This is how the 25th Brigade is working." And then I understood that it was the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the 25th Brigade. The reporter asks, "What's your name?" "My name is Igor and I'm from Kursk." "And can you say, have they been harassing you guys?" Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and upvoting to support more translations of historically important content. Thank you.